Well, hello guys, and what is up? Welcome to the third trimester. In today's video, I really want to discuss everything that happened in my second trimester. I want to talk to you about symptoms. I want to talk to you guys about cravings. I want to talk about all of the in-between, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I really just wanted to update you guys because I feel like it's been a long time since I've sat down and actually updated you guys on how my pregnancy is progressing and what's going on. The last video I did do was all about the fibroid, which I will briefly skim over that in this video because I go into way more detail in the other video all about the fibroid, so I'll link that down below, but I will just be mentioning stuff in this video in case you have just come into your second trimester and there are certain things that you're kind of like worried about. This might help. If you guys are interested in knowing how my second trimester went and everything about my second trimester, then stay tuned and keep on watching. So I haven't done a pregnancy video in a while just because there hasn't been much to talk about. I wanted to kind of do these in blocks. Like, there's no point in talking about my second trimester while I'm in the middle of it. I wanted to wait till it was over and then I could discuss everything that went on in it. My pregnancy's been pretty uneventful for the last few weeks. Second trimester is described anywhere between 14 and 28 weeks. So my 14 weeks started off with migraines. Delightful, just great. If you guys have watched me for a while, you know that I suffer from migraine. It's like a continuous thing that I've had since I was a kid. Like, I've always had them since before I was even a teenager. I've just suffered by headaches. Migraines in particular have become really, really bad in the last few years. I get a lot of stress ones and sometimes I get cluster ones. They differ, but they're just horrendous. And in my pregnancy, they kind of have went away, but I noticed them coming back around the 14 weeks. My energy was still really, really low at this stage, so I did get my iron taken at the same time as I got the flu vaccine. This is around week 14, and I actually ended up getting like a little bit sick from it. Like, the next day, I ended up just not feeling great. I kind of had like flu-like symptoms, a cough and stuff. It went away within, I'd say, about 10 hours. Around week 14, like, none of my trousers were fitting me. I could get them up, but I couldn't button them. I couldn't do them up. So I've been living in leggings, and the sweatpants that I'm currently wearing now, I've been wearing them since week 14. Coming into Christmas, I wasn't going anywhere. Everything was in lockdown. I've been in lockdown my whole pregnancy, so it doesn't really make any difference whether they fit me or not. I'm only roaming around my house. That was kind of like it for week 14, 15, 16. For some reason, week 17 got cut off. I don't know what the hell happened. Week 17 was one of my favorite weeks. I was exactly week 17 plus 4 days when I felt my first like little flutter in my belly. It was the nicest feeling ever. I was watching the Late Late Toy Show with Patty and I just felt this kind of like little popping, like gas bubbles in my belly. It was so subtle, like if you moved you wouldn't have felt it, and I felt it at least 2 or 3 times that whole night. It was just incredible. Appetite severely decreased around week 18. And a lot of people said to me, oh, you'll be eating so much more when you're pregnant, blah, blah, blah. In the beginning, I wasn't eating as much. I was kind of eating what I normally would, but I definitely was more conscious and have been more conscious since the day I got pregnant about making sure that I eat 3 regular meals a day. It doesn't even matter if I miss snacks or if I'm not interested in food in between, but just getting my 3 meals in a day. And now I'm struggling to even, like, if I eat breakfast, I'd probably pass on lunch and wait for dinner. If I eat lunch, I'll probably like skip on dinner. Like, it's just bad. But like I said, I am making an effort to eat little and often and whatever I want, just to eat it if it's food. Also in week 18, I noticed that I was starting to develop a little bit more of a want for Fanta Orange. So a craving for Fanta Orange definitely started around this week. It's been my favorite drink the whole way through my pregnancy. I've been getting the sugar-free one just because I don't want to be adding an extra sugar into my diet that's unnecessary. I absolutely love Fanta. I only have like maybe a glass of it, maybe 2 in a day. Not every day. I think I might drink it like 3-4 times a week, but it's the one thing that it makes my mouth water. I'm even thinking of it now. It's all I want and my mouth just does water for it. It's the weirdest thing because I haven't had any cravings throughout my pregnancy. I haven't like looked at anything and been like, oh, I wanted more so aversions to certain foods and smells of certain foods. Ugh. And my sense of smell is still really, really, really high. But I will say that Fanta Orange, and I do like Maltesers. Just the crunch of the Malteser and just the chocolate of the Galaxy. I don't know, it's just so nice. But I really, really, really have been craving Fanta Orange. Like, loving it. Ooh, baby's kicking me. The baby sometimes does that, gives me an awful boot. Like sometimes like right in the middle of my stomach, I just feel like this ferocious boot. And then sometimes I can feel the baby like turning around. Like yesterday, the baby was lying across my stomach and it's moved back to where its feet were up underneath my lungs. Week 19. I do want to say that week 19 was also the week that Paddy was able to feel the baby move by putting his hand on my belly, which was actually lovely. So despite everything else that happened this week, that was one of the nicest things. This is the week of from hell for me, to be honest. This is where I had severe pressure on my pelvic floor down below my vagina area. I was feeling a lot of like weight and heaviness. It was kind of like someone was pushing a fist down on top of that area. It just felt so like just so much pressure. It was hurting to walk. A lot of the pain was located on my right side as well. So as well as the pressure down below, I was getting pain all along my right side and just under where my bump would be. And at 19 weeks, my bump was just tiny. Like it was really, really, really small. Let's see, can I find a picture of it and I'll show you. So it wasn't like the pressure from the bump. Like I have a much bigger bump now. Like I'll show you my bump later on. At that time, it wasn't. So it wasn't like I should be having that much pressure from it, if that makes sense. And it really just hurt to walk and everything. So I decided that I would go to my doctor because I was just really concerned. I didn't like the pain. It was really niggly. It was making me feel really upset and really emotional, thinking that I'm in that much pain. And even when I think about it now, I get really upset. I just think week 19 was just so scary for me because I was so afraid that something was wrong, that I was going to lose the baby, or I just didn't know what was happening, and I just didn't really understand because obviously it's my first pregnancy. Even if you've been through 10 pregnancies, you're still gonna worry, any kind of severe twinge and pain or anything like that. So I went to my doctor just because I was worried, and it was during Vlogmas, so you would have seen that. And then I ended up in the A&E. A lot of people ask like, what's the A&E? It's accident and emergency. It's like the ER in America, but it was just precautionary. My doctor didn't like the pain, didn't like how distended my stomach was. She was really worried about me and she was like, no, I don't like this. But she did the Doppler and you could hear the baby's heartbeat. So she was like, baby's fine, but I want to send you over for a scan. Before 20 weeks, they will not see you in the natal unit, like the natal area, because you're too early. They only see you 20 weeks onwards, like as in if you have an emergency. So I had to go in with everybody else into A&E, which was fine under normal circumstances, but it's COVID. I was on my own. I was really stressed out. And I just wish that Paddy was there, my mum or my dad or anybody, just to be there. And I remember sitting there because I was in there for like, oh my God, I came in at 10 o'clock in the morning and I was admitted to a ward at midnight. So I was there for like 14 hours. But I remember coming up to just before I was admitted to my ward, sitting there and the tears are just rolling down my eyes, and I was wearing a mask and I couldn't breathe and I was just so upset and distraught. But I had my scan on the baby the next morning. They did like a small scan when I was in the A&E, and you know, they could see the baby moving, so they were happy. But I was admitted to a ward and then brought down for an internal scan and an external scan. Just, they thought it was my appendix. They thought it was everything. Long story short, you guys know it ended up being a fibroid. And I have everything written down here because I forget about it. It was 7.5 centimeters at that time, or 7 centimeters, I can't remember, something like that. And the technician who did it, I actually went to school with her, Denise. She's a fabulous woman. She's just amazing. But she was like, look, that's why your stomach's so big and distended. Like my stomach just looked real like big. I was let go of hospital. Out of hospital after 2 days. Incredibly stressed. Like I've never felt so much anxiety over another human, something happening to my baby. It was just horrific. It was horrible. And I just felt horrible for days and days. The doctor told me to rest when I came home. So I took his advice. I didn't do any more Christmas shopping. So like my friends like Jenna and Lisa and them got like crappy Christmas presents because I literally couldn't shop for Christmas, and I was doing stuff online, but my head was just all over the place. So thankfully my friends didn't really mind their crappy Christmas present. They were just happy that I was okay. But anyway, I went back in for a scan then at 20 weeks, so the following week, and it had grown again, the fibroid. So it ended up going to 9.5 centimeters, really significant. The doctors again told me to rest and, you know, not be stressing. Paddy did come to one of my scans, but I cannot remember which one. 22nd week scan, which would have been the the scan after I heard that it had grown more, and Paddy was allowed to come in with me because it would have been my official 20-week scan, if that makes sense, that you would normally get. Like, you wouldn't have all these scans like I did before, but he came in with me and I was so happy. So he got to see the baby on the screen. He was like, I was so confused at what I was watching, but I was just so happy for him to be able to see his son or daughter and just be able to sit there and just look at the baby and see the baby moving and the heartbeat and everything. And he was so delighted. It was like the best experience ever, because I know so many women going through this experience haven't been able to bring their partners or husbands into the scans, and it's been just shite basically. But he got to see the baby. After week 23, I felt that my symptoms had gone away. I hadn't had that pain. I had the pain for 2 weeks before I went to the doctor on and off, and then 4 weeks. So I had the pain for 6 weeks, like just that horrible, dull, crampy pain. And paracetamol was the only thing I could take, and I was trying not to take too many of them. So at 24 weeks, I was brought back in for another scan, and I found out that the fibroid had shrunk to 2 centimeters. And if so many people asked me in my previous fibroid video, like, how did I get it to shrink? I didn't do anything. It just had to do with the drop in progesterone. It also had to do because you get high levels of progesterone as soon as you get pregnant, and it can cause those things like cysts, and it can cause the fibroid to grow basically. And a lot of women suffer from fibroids throughout their pregnancy. They don't even know it. And some women have severe pain. Some women have more. Some women have bigger ones. Mine was the size of a grapefruit. It was just not... It was not welcome. The other thing is, they said that the baby could have just competed with it for space and kind of like squished it down. So many different things could have been contributing to it. I have no idea, but the resting definitely helped. Not that I could do anything else. I felt really lazy for about 6 weeks because a small walk and I'd be in bits, but I tried to do little bits and pieces. Anyway, at 24 weeks then, so fibroid shrunk. I was feeling a lot more heavier and slower to move, and feeling very full quickly, so not able to eat as much. So that's kind of an ongoing thing. Skin was feeling a bit itchy on my body. And also I found out from that scan as well that my placenta had moved up, and I don't have to be monitored as closely, thank God. Around kind of week 24, week 22 to week 24, I noticed that my skin had just come back to normal. I had mentioned to you guys earlier in my first trimester that my skin was so bad. It was so dry and it just felt like crap. I feel like it really normalized around the time the fibroid shrunk. Everything just kind of normalized. It just, like, my whole body came back to itself. I felt like my skin had just come back to itself. I felt like everything had just come back to normal. I don't know if that's like a mental thing or if it just is the way I'm feeling. So from between 25 and 26 weeks, breathlessness was a huge problem, and it has been an ongoing problem for the last, 6 weeks. So I've changed my iron supplement. I was just taking a regular iron supplement, and I was on Fibroid. Can make you a bit constipated. I wasn't suffering from anything like that, so I chose to go for active iron, which doesn't cause any constipation, and it's twice as absorbent as any other iron supplement. It's really good. So I really find that it's helping, because my iron was a bit low. My blood pressure is a little bit on the lower side, like not crazy low or anything, and I did feel like my breathlessness was due to probably lack of iron. When I told my doctor at my glucose test, which I'll get into in a minute, he laughed at me and he was like, oh yeah, that's normal, you're going to expect that, like from now on you're not going to be able to breathe. I was like, great. He was real lighthearted about it, so he wasn't really concerned about it. So then at 26 weeks I had my glucose test, which was a 1 hour fasting glucose test. A lot of people kind of like were commenting on this when I mentioned it. In my hospital, you were to fast for 1 hour before getting the glucose test. That was just the one that was available, the one that they were doing, and there's so many different other ones. There's 3 hour fasting glucose test loads. And what I did was I fasted from the night before. I just ate my dinner at 8 o'clock the night before. The glucose test was at 10 the next morning. I didn't eat throughout the night for no particular reason. It's just the way my appetite is. I haven't had it. I don't need to go back into that. So I just fasted because I've heard so many stories of women fasting for an hour before getting the glucose test and saying, oh, you can't do that now because you ate this morning. So I just went and didn't eat from my dinner the night before. So 14 hours fasting, did my glucose test. It's such a walk in the park. Like, don't be worried about it. If you have your glucose test coming up, really don't be worried about it. It's super easy. It's super straightforward. Like, I had a comment from a girl being like, how did you drink that stuff? As soon as I drank it, I felt sick. That's just a psychological thing. Like, you're just psychologically psyching yourself up for something disgusting. It tastes like a Barocca orange. It was absolutely fine. It's only a little glass of it. It wasn't a big deal. And you fast for the hour, and then they take your bloods to check your level of sugar in your bloods to see if your insulin's working properly. All of that. Obviously, if you have gestational diabetes, really listen to your nutritionist or the dietitian. Listen to your advice from your doctor, because it can be quite serious during pregnancy. I can talk to you guys about that in a separate video if you want, just coming from a nutritional point of view, because again, if you didn't know, I am a qualified nutritionist. So if you do want information on that, I can give it to you, or I can do a separate video on fasting glucose or on gestational diabetes, because I do know it is serious. It's not life-threatening to you or your baby, but it is just really important to take the advice of your nutritionist and follow a very strict eating plan, and just to be wary of the foods that you are consuming. It just can be a bit overwhelming, and not to stress out over it is the main thing. I didn't have anything wrong with my insulin levels, and everything came back fine. The baby was measuring a week behind at 26 weeks. And I asked the doctor, is he concerned? This is the gynecologist. And he said he wasn't really concerned that things like that happen. Sometimes babies are a week behind, a week ahead. And I was just like, why is the baby smaller? Again, I just put that out of my head, because I was like, don't be stressing, don't be worrying. The doctor's not. He sees this day in, day out. It's just first time mother fear, and then obviously being hormonal and everything that goes with it. And just pregnancy is a whirlwind. I tells you that. It's a whirlwind. But it has been a really nice experience so far, other than that bloody fibroid. So 26, 27 weeks, there was no major change. I haven't had major things go on throughout this trimester, just feeling a bit heavier. Growth, obviously. My camera cut out, great. Second trimester, they do call it the honeymoon phase, but I hate things like that, because it's like, oh, you should be fine during the second trimester, like everybody is. And then when you go through something in the second trimester, whatever it is, people are like, oh, I was fine, I was grand. And like, I find that like really like the best trimester or whatever. And like, don't stress yourself out. If you're having a crap time, you're having a crap time. I was having a crap time, and I have no problem in sharing that I was having a crap time. But it kind of was just for about 6 weeks, and then it was all over and done with and in the past, and we're moving forward from it. And everything so far has been great since. Just my breathing and just the heaviness. I'm obviously have never been this weight, and this, I don't even know what I weigh, because I would never even dare to weigh myself, because it would just cause a serious spiral. I've never been more than 120 pounds in my entire life. I think I put on like 10 pounds in the first 14 weeks. So I was so nervous to even be like weighed. I think before I got pregnant, I weighed about 113 pounds or something. So I weighed 123 pounds at one scan after 10 weeks. And I remember being like, I never want to be weighed again. I don't want to know anything more about my weight. That's the end of it. I don't want to know for the rest of the pregnancy. I just want the baby to grow. That's all I care. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. But yeah, everything else has been fine. So I'm going to go into a couple of your questions, because I'm sure there's things that I've forgotten to mention. So the first question I got is, what prenatals are you taking? I'm taking the ones from Boots. So the Boots own prenatals. You can take Pregnant Care. Most of the prenatals that I've been looking at are pretty standard. They're all kind of the same. Just take whichever ones you're comfortable taking. If you're like me and you read labels, the one from Boots was fine. Somebody told me like, oh, don't take that, it's crap. I've been taking it the whole way through my pregnancy, and everything's been progressing fine, and I haven't been lacking anything other than iron, which I'm on a separate supplement for, but everything else has been fine. The only reason I took them was because they had ginger in them, and they used to help with my morning sickness way back in the day. That's why I don't think I ever got any morning sickness, because I used to take my prenatal at night, and then it kind of keep me going for the next day, the ginger in it. What has been the worst and the best part of your pregnancy so far? So obviously the worst has been that fibroid, and obviously like struggling with like body image, obviously, because I have problems with that anyway. Looking at my boobs getting so big and my belly getting so big has been a little bit of a struggle. Noticing like cellulite and different kinds of things happening to my body has been difficult to get my head around, but I'm kind of just embracing it, and I'm just saying like, look, this is what needs to happen to grow a perfectly strong, healthy baby, and that is what needs to happen. And then the best part, I think the best part is anytime I get to see a scan, anytime I get to hear the baby's heartbeat, and anytime I feel the baby kick, even as strong as the kicks are, and sometimes I'm like, whew, like that was a strong one. Anything got to do with that movement, seeing the baby on the scan, I just love it. I love everything. Hope you're keeping well. I'm 3 weeks behind you. And did you find out the sex? No, I haven't found out the sex of the baby. Congratulations, you're only 3 weeks behind me. That's so cool. We could be like having our babies like right beside each other, because I could go like late and maybe she could go early. Who knows? Suffering back pain, currently 22 weeks. Have you experienced this? My back pain was all got to do with that fibroid, because it was actually located at my posterior. So remember I explained that I had like pain all on my right side. I also had it all the way down my back of my legs, and I used to put a hot water bottle on my back, and I used to put heat patches on my clothes, and then they'd just be like heating up my lower back. That's the best thing I can give you advice on. Sometimes baby is kind of like squashing the sciatic nerve as well, but in my case it was all got to do with the fibroid pushing on my back. What have you been craving? A lot of people have asked me that. I mentioned that Fanta orange. How are you feeling? You seem so held together. I'm actually feeling really great. Like I feel perfectly fine. I feel happy. I feel content. I'm a little bit nervous for when the baby arrives. I mean, that's kind of normal. Just, you know, will I know what to do? Stuff like that. But like, I'm just like, oh, whatever. I'll be a great mom. Be fine. Are you planning on breastfeeding your baby? And I suppose that's kind of like a question that I've gone back and forth with myself. Like, am I going to breastfeed or am I going to bottle feed? I have no idea. That's the whole answer to that question. But the reason why is I feel like mothers put an awful lot of pressure on themselves to be this like perfect mum, the one that breastfeeds and has the baby that sleeps through the night and has the baby that is calm and quiet, and every moment they are there for their baby, knowing exactly what to do and not having a meltdown. I just feel like there's so much pressure. I also feel there's like a lot of pressure to have the natural birth with no epidural. I don't think anything that a human does is supernatural. So everything, including a C-section, is natural. The reason why I don't know about the breastfeeding thing is because I do not want to put pressure on myself, being like, you are going to breastfeed and that is it, and that's the only option for you, and continuously saying that to myself. And then when the baby's born, maybe it not latching, or maybe there's like problems, or maybe I have to, like I said, go for a C-section and I'm trying to heal and I just don't want to breastfeed. I do not want to feel that pressure of breastfeeding if it's something that either doesn't come natural to me, or I don't want to do it, or I struggle with it and I really just don't want to stress myself out. So if it happens and we get on great, me and baby, brilliant, I'll continue doing it. I also have no problems with supplementing. I've already bought my bottles, so if my milk doesn't come in or if I'm not able to feed enough, I will give bottles and I will give breast milk if I can, and I will give formula. A fed baby to me is the best. But again, it's all personal preference. I just am not putting pressure on myself in any way, shape or form. And I don't feel like any woman should, because I have seen so many like things about women being like, I didn't breastfeed and now I feel depressed because I wasn't able to do it, or my milk supply dried up and now I feel really depressed that I can't feed my baby. Like, I just want to avoid anxiety and feeling any low emotions in regards to anything and just go with the flow. I wasn't breastfed, nor was my sister, nor was Paddy or his brothers, nor were any of my friends, and we all turned out perfectly fine. My immune system is really, really good. I've never had a sickness, an illness, nothing in my entire life. If baby and I don't get on with breastfeeding very well, I have options, and that's all I'm going to say on that. So we don't know. We'll find out. I'm just going to answer one more question and then I must dash because I actually do need to go back to work. I've just taken a lunch break. How are you getting on with the fact that Paddy won't be able to be beside you in the hospital? This sucks, like it just really does, but as long as he's there for the birth of his child, I don't really care after that. If you're not aware, in Ireland our COVID restrictions limit you to having anybody in any ward at any time. Doesn't matter if you're dying, unfortunately. That's what's happened to people. They've died alone and everything. But they are allowing partners, thankfully, in for the birth of their child. So I cannot have Paddy in until I'm in what's known as active labour, which means that I am ready to almost push or receive an epidural or whatever. I think it's over 3 centimetres or active labour, one or the other, whichever comes first. Paddy can then come in to see me deliver the baby. He gets to meet the baby, the skin to skin with dad, and then he stays for 1 hour after the baby's born, and then he has to go. And then I have to stay in the hospital. I'm probably moved to a ward straight after, and then I stay there for 2 to 3 days. It depends. If you have a C-section, you may need to stay longer. If you have any complications after the baby's born, you may need to stay longer. If there's something wrong with the baby, you may need to stay longer. You just don't know. So you kind of pack for the unknown. and then people can drop stuff over to you. So he will not be with me for 3 days, but I have amazing nurses and midwives, and I know that there's so many amazing people in the hospital that are going to be able to help, and I'm not going to feel alone because I'm just not going to think about it. I'm just going to be like, look, this is what it is, and you can do it by yourself. You'll be fine. I just feel sorry for Paddy because he's not going to spend those first few days with the baby, and that's kind of the most disappointing thing. It's his child's too, but it doesn't really matter because as soon as I'm home, we'll all be together as a family, and that's the most important thing. We'll be together as a family for the rest of our lives. I'm sure we can sacrifice 3 days. We'll be fine. But I'm just going in with it thinking positively. Thank you so much, guys, for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll give you a quick bump shot right now, and I'll include like one from my first trimester. You can see where I'm at now because, I mean, there's a huge difference. Thank you so much for watching that really long video, and it was overdue. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed it nonetheless, and I will talk to all of you in my next video. Mwah! Bye, guys.